Yay, we're recording. Can I just tell you something really funny that I wanted to record because I want to make everyone laugh, and then I'm gonna kick it over to Sarah, who's gonna kick us off today. And I'm super pumped that we can gather together, y'all. Um, I made a wall space to like make a schedule and hang up all the kids' stuff for school that they're printing off. And I have this massive calendar for the wall. And I was like, do we even hang this up? And Courtney's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what are we going to write on it? I mean, we're not going anywhere. Like, how do you fill a calendar? And he's like, oh, we could hang it up and we could write canceled across the whole thing. And I think he looked at me because usually our calendar is so packed, you can't fit everything in. I found it funny, sorry. But we were like, it's a sad reality. We don't need a calendar. Like, I mean, I need a planner for business, but they're going to be doing the same thing every day for that. I don't know how long. Forever. So guys, we're so glad you guys could be here and for the y'all tuning into the recording. I'm just grateful that we could lean in together as teams, and happy birthday to Leanna. I'm grateful for this time that we have one another, that we have this opportunity, that we have this community. The scripture that has literally been ringing through my head since this morning is the whole passage from Esther of like, perhaps you have been created for such a time as this. I feel like our PD, our workouts, our nutrition, and everything have trained us for how to be at a time like this. And I just got off a call with my mindset coach, so I'm kind of revved up in that area too, of how and so today we shifted our focus. Originally, this call was going to lead us into this workshop for coaches, and instead we wanted to lead it into how to serve, because your business doesn't stop, but there's a way to do it that is with noble and with integrity. And so I'm really excited so Sarah and Steph and I have been working in the Diamond Strong group, and we kind of worked out the details of today to lead with you guys together. And I'm just grateful, just so grateful for this. So Sarah, you're going to kick us off, right?
Sure. That sounds like a great plan that I was completely like, no, I'm teasing. Of course.
I'm like, I mean,
I'll talk about anything. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, you guys, it is an incredible time right now. And that sounds like a strange thing to say, but I will tell you that my kids, I have 6 kids and we homeschool, and I'm home almost all day, almost every day. And so my day-to-day life, like, I'm not surprised homeschooling for the first time. I didn't just lose a restaurant job. I didn't, lose my hair clients. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to tell you what I'm seeing from my perspective, that I know that even though my day, now my husband's working from home, which, believe me, that is a shift, but I can see from a different angle a lot of things that are happening. So there are some things, like I was talking with somebody who goes to our church who's a lawyer, and he was talking about the very real situation that there are people who are waiting in jail who are supposed to go on trial for the crimes that they are guilty of, who might be set free because they're going to not be able to have their access to a speedy trial. And that is the battle that he's fighting right now. And there are people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. But on every single front, when we hear about a story of somebody I saw a story today where somebody was trying to put $3 worth of gas in their tank because that's all they had, and their card kept getting declined because you have to have a certain amount on your card in order to get anything. And the person behind them put gas in their tank for them. And, my kids, like my daughter just brought me, they've been watching lunchtime doodles with an artist, an author who has been teaching how to draw the characters from his books every day at 1:00. And, they're showing Broadway shows on the internet. And like, for everything that you hear that's negative, there's something that's positive. And our opportunity right now is to be part of that light, right? And so I have visual reminders around my house. I'm big on visual cues. And the one that I'm really have been holding on to really for about the last 9 months has been a lighthouse. That's been part of my vision for my team, but now has kind of become a broader vision for our family and our life, especially in this time of crisis. And I wanted to talk to you about vision and about just having confidence in connecting with people, even in this difficult time. And you've heard all kinds of things, like you are never going to regret being generous. And so if you're helping someone and you're offering something to someone, even if you're offering some support for free that you might all have previously only allowed people in your group who were paid customers, and you choose in your group to allow people in for support and encouragement outside of that, you will never regret being generous, right? But one thing that I know is true of all of the teams that are represented here is that that's not new for us. It's not like we were stingy, selfish, schemy people 2 weeks ago, and now we're like, but now I'm generous, like, so in a way, you guys can conduct business as usual because this is how our team has always been, right? You might choose to change a couple of your policies. You might choose to run an extra free group. You might choose to offer something that is just whatever it is that, just a noontime prayer group, or just a morning devotional group, or just a mindset and encouragement group. You might have a group where you just share personal development videos every day, or whatever it is. That might change, but you can still reach out and check on people. You can still wish people happy birthday. Someone's having a birthday today. Do you know what I mean? And they still deserve a great big celebration and gratitude for their life, right? We've got right on this call right now, we got somebody who's likely bringing life into the world here in the next couple of days, and somebody who just brought life into the world a couple of days ago, and somebody who's coming into the world we're celebrating today. Like, there's a lot, those people still deserve to be celebrated, and the people who are helping, including you, deserve to be celebrated. And that is part of your mission. And you can have confidence when you're reaching out to people, even if it's a new person. You might change what you say to them based on what you know about them, but that also isn't different. When I've made connections in the past, if I make a new connection for a new friend or a new follow, I always go to their page first to see what's going on, because there's nothing worse than saying, hey, how's it going? How's your day? Only to find out they just got home from their grandma's funeral, right? Or I literally had a woman I checked on at one point and just said, thankfully I didn't put my foot too far in my mouth, like her house had just burned down. And I didn't check her Facebook page first. I just sent her a message, like real chipper. I didn't say anything dumb, but like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? How's your week? How's your Tuesday? And she's like, I mean, our house just burned down. So like that's always good practice, and you don't have to be fearful of that. And I also want you to keep in mind that it's not icky to sell someone something right now. It's not. I mean, Amazon is still selling stuff. The grocery store is still selling stuff that people don't need. You can still buy Coke and M&Ms at the grocery store, right? You could still get online and buy a sofa if you felt compelled to do so. Like people are still conducting business. And if you weren't scammy before, if you weren't predatory before, like don't be, well, you can't go to the gym and prey on new moms right now, but it would be scammy to walk up to somebody in the gym with a new baby and be like, hey, you want to get your body back? Like that would be a gross way to conduct business. And that's not different. So the now version of that is, hey, I know you're a waitress and you just lost your job. You want to be a coach? Don't do that, right? But you wouldn't do that anyway. So don't let what's going on rob you of your mission and your vision for your business, because that hasn't changed. And in fact, hopefully it's broadened a little bit. Hopefully you are more encouraged and more inspired to reach out to more people and encourage more people and offer hope to more people in the midst of this. And so if you talk to the other people on your team for ideas of how, that's a great thing. There's people on our broader team who are doing like virtual PE class. And Beachbody just announced that they're releasing more free workouts. The kids' workouts are out now. Frankly, so many people are taking advantage of that like people couldn't get on BOD this morning because it was overwhelmed, right? I checked in at one point and there were like, I don't know, 47,000 people working out or something crazy. Like, I took a picture of it. Maybe it wasn't quite that many because that sounds like a lot now. But at any rate, my point is people couldn't get on because there were so many people working out. Not 47, 14. That's why I was the English teacher, not the math teacher. See, even though I'm not a surprise homeschooler, I still don't get everything right. It was 14,500 people, still a lot. And more than that at some point because it crashed the system. So you can get creative about how to serve and you can get creative about what you do. And I don't want anybody to panic about inviting or selling or sales, because right now, the best thing that we can do is show people what has always been true of our team and of us as individuals, and loving on them and sharing our mission and being that lighthouse, thinking about what a lighthouse is and what its purpose is. And that part of the purpose of the lighthouse is to still be there, right? No matter what is going on, no matter how the storm gets, the lighthouse is still there, is still shining the same light, sending out the same hope from the same place in the same out into the chaos, and that it's not going to change. And I want to encourage you in that, because it's a chance, if you haven't really thought about your purpose as a coach, if you haven't really thought about what it is that you want, this is the time to reflect on that a little bit. And you are under the umbrella of your coach's vision, but you have your own piece of that, right? You have your own way of acting that out. You have your own way of presenting it and your own story within it. But you were attracted to something in your coach's story that then is kind of the umbrella for you. So if you are a new coach, if you are just getting started with this concept of a vision for your own team, and you don't even know what that is because you are the only one on your own team, you can use the stories of your team to inspire you and reflect and think about what it is that I keep asking people what it is that you want to have been true of you during this season in this crisis. When we get through this and we look back, what do you want to have been true of you? And so for me, what I want is for people to remember that I was positive but not ignorant, that I was helpful, that I was generous with my mindset and coaching and helping, that I was a place of positivity and some humor, and that I didn't fuel the fire. And that's what I want at the end of this. And if I sell a challenge pack in it, great. If I don't, okay. But that's also not new, right? That's also always been true. So it's really important, your presence on social media right now. One thing that's true is that a lot of us see each other's stuff. And so my feed right now is not negative and panicky. There's a couple, but not all of it. But that's not true for a lot of people. And you have the opportunity, I mean, from a business standpoint, you have an opportunity to stand out. It's going to be a lot easier to stand out. It's really easy to spread positivity when everything's going really well, right? And everybody's happy. It's a lot harder to be positive and encouraging when things are really hard. And so from an opportunity standpoint, it's going to be easier to stand out, but harder to be that voice because you are struggling alongside everybody else. But that's my bit of encouragement for you today. And just to remind yourself to keep sharing and really keep sharing the same way. You're sharing the same message that we've been sharing all along. That's not any different. And you can still share it confidently. And you can, because you would be understanding and compassionate to somebody's difficulties, regardless of what they are. Now we have kind of unified difficulties, and you can speak to a lot of people's hearts that way and continue to do it authentically and genuinely. But I don't think that you need to pull back on the number of people that you're talking to or the number of people that you're inviting. You might have to be a little more sensitive and a little less flip if that's your style. You might have to do a little more encouraging for people. I would encourage you to give more of yourself away for free and be willing to go live more and be the sound, because people are just watching the news on repeat, right? And you have an opportunity to be the sound in their head. So that might be something that's a little bit different for you, but you have that great opportunity and you want to share it. All right. Who am I calling on? Steph?
I have a question before we move on, if I'm allowed. So the thing that I'm struggling with this the whole last week that of craziness is I don't like being on social media right now because it's dragging me down and it's making me have a really hard time talking to other people, because then what they say when I message them brings me down. And like, I have so much encouragement to give before I'm just like, all right, now I just need to go like isolate I need that isolation time because I'm just so overwhelmed with everything. And like my family, I can't serve them as well. So I'm just like, I would love to like do this perfectly, but I just really feel like it's a super struggle.
I think you just have to guard your time. I mean, I think that the answer to that is the answer it's always been. It's just that much more important right now, that you have to start with something that encourages you. You have to know what you want to send out to, like, I keep a notebook of ideas. It's okay if she's in there, just whatever she's banging on. I keep a notebook of ideas and I come on and I do my live and I get off. And I don't look at all the other stuff. Like I've actually had a much greater governor on my scrolling recently, and not perfectly. I get sucked into some things. In terms of interacting with other people, it's okay to put a limit on it. If you have people that you're messaging and you're going to message your 5 people and then you're done. You know, like I think that it's this, I really do think it's the same thing as it's always been. We're just extra protective of it. And so if you skip your morning personal development and you are not in a good place, you're right. You can't serve anybody well that way. And I honestly, I think it is okay. This morning, I was not super productive this morning. I got up. I got up at 6. I got on. I didn't work out. I kind of read while everybody was working out. And then I sat on the couch and snuggled my kids and we watched Jimmy Fallon's live from home, which was hilarious, by the way. You know what I mean? And we just kind of had a little bit of a mental break. And I think that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that because everybody is upside down. But I also think that we owe it to the people around us to stand up and share positivity. And in order to do that well, we have to guard ourselves before and after it, right? You have to intentionally, just like a basketball player has a strategy when they're shooting free throws, or a baseball player has a strategy when they're stepping up to bat. You have to have, here's my strategy before I enter into social media, right? I am going to listen to a song, watch a video, say a prayer, take some deep breaths. I have a purpose. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my purpose. I'm going to get out, and then I'm going to have some aftercare. Whatever it is. It could be different. It's different for everybody. You know, if you need to, my grandmother used to moan and complain about Sean Casey, who was a Cincinnati Reds player, about how many times he adjusted his gloves before he batted. It was a stupidly large number of times that he adjusted his batting glove before he stepped into the batter's box. But he did it every single time because that was part of his routine. And so there's things that you need to do before and after stressful situations, or not even stressful situations, even good ones. If you listen to people who speak, Brendan Burchard was talking about his big, long, 3-day event that he hosts, that he has aftercare scheduled as well, because he's on stage for something like 18 hours or something crazy. Like he's standing and speaking for over the whole course of the whole thing, all of that. And so taking a deep breath and giving whoever it is your best, and frankly, not just giving your best to strangers, giving your best to your family as well, which is what you were talking about. Having that intentionality, I think, is good, especially for people who are introverts, who it really does take a significant amount of effort to engage people, and then you're like done. Does that answer your question? Does that help at all?
Yeah, that was helpful. Yeah.
I think the same thing is true. Your journey is always number one. Your personal development, your nutrition, your water, your mindset, your workout is always the first thing. And that's still true. We just have to we can't let it slide the way that we could before. You could let it slide a little bit and be okay. And I think that it's exposing how important that is.
Now I'll add an extra layer just to kind of give all of us permission to redefine how we are operating right now. Because if you know social media is that trigger, and where most people are trying to avoid it because of the negativity, give yourself and give others an invitation to say, hey, let's create something that online may have connected us, but we're going to grow offline. So whether it's reaching out to people via email, because it's a little bit more controlled, they can filter it differently, or setting things up like this where you can still get together, but you're not getting lost in the newsfeed. Give yourself permission to redefine that and kind of take how you're feeling and how others are feeling and use that as like the blueprint for it. You know what I mean? Because social media should be a tool and not the resource. So if in this season it's not working, plant in different soil to give this chance an opportunity to like re-nourish itself, you know? Cool. Y'all, I'm excited to chat with you guys about just kind of how to bridge that gap. And originally the thing that we wanted to really talk about is just how do you take the success that you are finding or that you are cultivating, how to share it, what to share, and how to communicate what you're working towards. And I think with everything that's going on with recent events, like you guys know, any of us, so my blanket cover for what I'm going to talk to you guys about is breathing room. And that can fit with the things Sarah just touched on, with physical breathing room, casting that vision and creating breathing room and margin within the grander scheme of what you're doing. But I want to talk to you guys specifically about the area of financial breathing room. Because no matter where you are right now, if you have a successful corporate career and you're pretty solid there, or whether you are stay at home with the kids, or whether you are somewhere in the middle, if you're a college student, before this happened, if we needed to create extra financial margin, we could lean into our business, or we could go get a second or third shift job, waiting tables, bartending. You guys, I did this, you know, because I had a salary job. If you guys don't know, I know I've got a couple of my girls on here. I worked in corporate America for 14 years. I had a crazy successful job. I was making really good money in my corporate job. But if I worked over 40 hours a week, it didn't matter because I didn't get overtime, you know? And so when my husband was laid off and 70% of our household income was swept out from underneath of us, what do? You control what you can control. And at the time, I was working 65 hours a week. I had flirted with the option of picking up a waitressing, a bartending job, working third shift, and I'm just going to have to get used to bleeding from my eyes for a little bit. And the problem is that what may work for a little bit is not going to sustain you for a season. And so here we are now, where people who do have those hourly paid jobs, people who are relying on tips or things just to like create that extra margin in their finances, now are stuck going, well, what do I do? What do I do? And so here's what I want to encourage you to think about is, what is your, and we're going to use the number of, what is your $200 story? And the reason why $200, and hear me on this, is because it's not something massive that seems like coming to you and saying, what's your 100-pound weight loss story? That's so huge. And for some people, it's so outside of the scope where it's like, I can't relate to that. Like, that's not where I am. So instead of saying, what is your 6-figure story? That's not going to be everyone's story. But if you talk to most people, it's a difference of a couple $100 that can either make or break their bank account. For us, that was the case. It was $200 every month that was going to make or break whether or not our accounts were overdrafted, whether or not we could pay our bills. And on the outside, like, something I need you to understand, don't be quick to judge just because something looks nice on the outside when you don't know what's happening on the other side. And you guys, we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of looking at the people that drive the nice cars, that live in the nice house, whose family looks completely perfectly put together, but you don't know what they're covering. It doesn't always look how it seems, okay? But if you talk to most people, like was the situation for us, that $200 was a difference whether or not we were in the red every month. Even though on the outside, we had the nice job, we had the corporate title, we had all of the things. We were ashamed to tell people that we were struggling financially, right? And I think for most, if it's not debt, it's saving for a vacation, saving up to use as date nights, saving up to pay to put money in the car. If you have kids, it's saving for your kids' activities. Maybe you do have student loan debt or credit card debt where it's like, man, I could really knock this down a little bit earlier. So I want you to start thinking, if you do not yet have your $200 story, what would your story look like if you right now had permission to get a blank piece of paper and a pen and just pen it down? What would that look like? What would you do with that extra couple $100 in financial breathing room in your situation right now? And I think it's important for us to establish what that would look like for us, because now we are emotionally attached to an outcome. And everything rises and falls on belief, right? And so if you could look at your situation right now and go, man, how can that extra $200, where can that create that financial margin, that breathing room for us right now? One, you start showing up for yourself, for your business, for your clients, for your team at an entirely different level, because now you have something worth fighting for. And then once you start chiseling and getting closer to that, even if you have a $50 story, you are still partially there. And how did that extra $50 create extra margin for you? And so here's the thing that trips most of us up, because most of us, I feel like it's safe to say, most of us grew up where like money just wasn't the thing that you talked about. You weren't like making it rain. And chances are you may have come from an environment where you didn't have a lot of it. And so I know that was the case for me. We didn't have a lot of money, y'all. My mom was a single mom of 4 kids. She left her job when I was born and didn't go back to work until my baby sister, who's 8 years younger than me, was in middle school. And so we didn't have it. And we automatically assumed that people who did were wicked and evil because they had what we didn't have. And it was so out of our hands. But what I realized in not only watching my mom, but in building this business, is that how you talk about it is all a reflection of your own relationship with money. So first, we got to understand that money is not the root of all evil. It's the posture of your heart. So if you are looking at how are you viewing your finances right now? How are you viewing the state of your business? If it is, I don't have enough, I don't have enough money in my bank account, I don't have enough people saying yes, I don't have enough coaches on my team who are working, I don't know enough people, you are operating from a place of fear, and you are operating from a place of lack. And what you focus on, you're automatically going to get more of. And so if all that you think of is there's not enough, there's not enough, there's not enough, there's not enough, that is going to be the posture that you go to. When Sarah talked about vision, that's going to be the posture that you go to them about. But when you start embracing the mindset of like, look, all right, I may not have what I want, right now, but I have everything that I need. There's enough of it. I just have to be resourceful to go out and find it, to go out and get it. And so how do you share? How do you talk about that? When you have your $50, your $200 story, you talk about how this has blessed you. That's it. If it was having a little bit extra margin to go out on a date night that otherwise wouldn't have made its way into the calendar because there were too many other things on the pecking order, then you talk about how grateful you are to be able to take this time to reconnect. If it was using that extra to cover the cost of groceries, then you talk about that. If it was using that extra to pay for your kids' daycare, if it was that little extra that can bring you home to your dining room table instead of having to go out and pick up that extra side hustle, then you talk about how this is bringing you back to the things that matter most. Do you feel what I'm saying? And if maybe for you, you're well off, if you are incredibly blessed, maybe this becomes the part of your business that, whether you call it a ministry or whether you call it your philanthropy, but this allows you to be blessed so you can be a blessing to other people. If this is a way where you take that money and you are stewarding it to be overly generous, then you talk, not to put yourself on a pedestal, but you guys, it's okay to talk about that. Because it's all about the posture of your heart. Okay? What do you share? What do you share? Well, number one, anytime you talk about anything income related and you tie it with your business, please make sure that you put that disclaimer in there somewhere. Because we want to operate from integrity. We want to, work from a good place. Make sure you put that in there, because this ain't no get rich quick scheme, you guys. But it's okay that in the meantime that you still keep that vision that Sarah talked about. Ultimately, that $200 isn't the end of your vision. So it's okay to still talk about, this is my small beginnings. This is where I am now. This is how I am stewarding this well. And this is how I'm watering this seed, but this is going to be the harvest that I'm working towards cultivating. Because where you are right now is not where you are going to be. And no matter where you are, no matter if it's a $50, a $200, I am debt free, got the mortgage paid off, and whatever, everyone starts from that beginning, but you just have to have the willingness to start. And where you are in your story, that $50 extra breathing room, like you guys, that was the thing for me. That's going to give someone else encouragement and hope, who right now is sitting and going, how many pennies do I have to rub together? What things do I have to sell on Craigslist just to create that extra margin? You guys, be thankful for this gift of technology, because we have the ability to serve others, to serve our families, to create that extra financial breathing room, and we don't have to leave the house. So let that encourage you. And you guys don't, and to Sarah's point earlier, if your heart was postured before all of this, we're I just want to help bless people. I want to help change their life. And it's okay to want to change yours in the meantime. You're not greedy and you're not selfish. Many of the best businesses, and many who aren't even that well-intended, were created out of there being a problem and having a solution to solve the problem. That's what makes you an entrepreneur. And it doesn't have to be icky. You have a solution to a problem. You just got to be brave enough to be willing to offer it. So I want to challenge you guys. I'm going to toss things over to Kelly, but I would encourage you guys, today, if you don't already have your $200 story, one, I want to challenge you to pick up your pen and start writing it. Create the map that's going to lead you there. And as you get, you're driving in fog, as you get to the next 5 miles, right? Sit down, evaluate, and talk about it. Reach out, use that as a way to share with people. If you already have your $200 story, when's the last time that you've shared it? Because maybe you're further away from it now than where you were before. When's the last time that you brought people back and reflected on those small beginnings? And here's where I'm going to leave you guys. So no matter where you are financially, do not disregard your small or your little right now. Because scripture says those who can be trusted with little will be trusted with much. This is a test to see how well you are stewarding the little that you have. Okay? Kelly.
I like bit my lip like while y'all were talking. So I'm over here like bleeding from my mouth. So I'm just going to put that out there. If you're like, why is she? Yeah. Okay. So public service announcement. Don't bite your lip. I love what we're talking about today. And what I want to close this off with, or close the call with today, is just giving you some practical things of how to do the things that Sarah and Steph have been talking about. You know, I did have my call with Brad Bizjack before, and I'll tell you that right now more than ever, the question to ask yourself today is, how can what we have bless others? And what are the gifts that I can bring? So I guess that's two questions. And I think the thing about it is right now, it feels weird to set a goal for a business when you don't know where the country's going. It feels weird to announce to the world that I finished Barblin when people are trying to figure out, you know, how they're going to get toilet paper. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, seriously, it feels weird to share that I'm going to be doing like this 21-day cleanse when people are trying to figure out how to homeschool their kids or teach their kids or whatever. But right now, more than anything, and with so much unordinary things happening, the world needs to see some ordinary. Does that make sense? Like, they need to see people who are refusing to respond with panic. People who are finding holiness in the mundane, everyday, monotonous stuff. You know what I'm saying? I got this mug. Go figure, I was buying online. And it says, be faithful to the present moment. And I bought it the day that they announced schools were closing and there was so much chaos, and I just needed it. And I'm asking you to do that in your business, to be faithful in the present moment. So like, what does that look like? Number one, you get to decide, but you cannot be creative in your business if you are living in anxiety and fear. It'll kill your creativity. If anyone's ever worked or listened to a podcast from Brad Bizjack, and I highly recommend his podcast right now for this season, he talks about dialing into a higher frequency. Like yesterday, I was so stuck because I got sucked into the news feed, like you were saying, Elizabeth. Like, I was reading article after article. It was bringing me down. I found myself wanting to, like, I couldn't be creative. I wanted to add value and I wanted to give hope, but I also didn't. I had nothing to give because I was sunk in this like darkness. And it was because I was caught up in the future. I was thinking too much about things. I was stuck in my head. One of my favorite phrases that Brad always says to me on our calls is, when you're stuck in your head, you're dead. And I'm a thinker. And if we can stop thinking about the things that are uncertain in our country, we can decide what we want to be certain on right now in our lives, because certainty is an emotion. And we can provide that for people. You know, I can't be certain about what the coronavirus statistic's going to be tomorrow, but I can make a really good meal for my family tonight for dinner. And I can get up in the morning and pray for every person who's struggling today. And I can get on a Zoom call with my team and talk about ways to serve people. And that gets me excited. But you have to protect that light. So for right now, what can you give? And it's so silly because it's like reminding me of Christmas and like the little drummer boy when he's like, what can I give? And they're like, play your drum. You know, or thinking of Esther, like she's freaking out about everything going on and saying like, you were made for such a time as this. I believe that the mission of our team is, the greater mission of the Freedom Family is to embrace freedom, share truth, and inspire hope. And I've never felt so much like we need to do that right now. But that does not mean we need to be on social media more than an hour a day max at all. And I think the majority of your time needs to be spent in your group serving your people or being on a Zoom with them. And maybe 30 minutes of it needs to be spent intentionally connecting. So if making an interest list of the people you want to connect with helps you, putting Newsfeed Eradicator up so you can't scroll, refusing to be only post from your phone and then delete it off your phone and only work from your computer. Like if you need to put, because literally y'all, if there's one virus right now that we really need to inoculate, it's fear. It's this virus of complete fear. And you're right, we don't need that in our homes. And I'm so glad you asked that question, Elizabeth, because I think right now, like Sarah says, we need to have a pregame for our day. So I've been posting in the morning after my prayer time because I worked out and I've filled my cup and I'm sharing. And then later in the day, if I have something on my heart, I might go live. But the rest of the day, I've literally really been trying to protect my time. And I, after talking with Brad today, realized before I connect with people, I need to listen to like a 15-minute podcast or something that's uplifting before I connect with people. And the minute I start to feel deflated, I know my time to work is done. And then I need to turn it off and do something else to fill me up. I kind of see it as, it's not the same because we're not like, I'm not trying to put down, or not put down, I'm not trying to compare it to like being a hospital worker, but it's almost like you have to scrub in, go into surgery, and then go out and decontaminate. Because our culture has a lot of toxicity in it, but the toxic is not that, it's not that there's like, it's really just because it's loud. And so we get to stand out right now. We get to be different. We get to be hope givers. We get to inspire hope. But I want to give you a few ways to help with that. And I'm sorry, I'm like holding the tissue to my lip. This is hilarious. Number one, be active like never before in your challenge group. Check on your people maybe twice a week now. Ask them if they want you to check via email. Ask if they want you to check Facebook Messenger. That way you know like you're actually checking on them the way that they want to be, because people, I don't know how people are limiting their time. If you're in a free group, be active in it. Be active in the team. Keep yourself surrounded with things that give you life. Hop on one of the workout Zooms. Because we're isolated from one another, y'all. And I mean, that's hard, even for introverts. Eventually you're going to want to have somebody over, you know what I'm saying? And so your journey is first. Your personal development right now needs to be 10x'd for your own sanity. And that can be listening to spiritual personal development, listening to elevation worship, listening to so many daily masses are being broadcasted in church services, doing things that fill your soul. But make sure you're showing up, because there's this concept of being a rooftop leader. And it's really interesting because it was something that was taught to us a few years ago by David Scott Mann. And he talked about how as a Green Beret, when they were over in Afghanistan, how they were defending these homes and the people were afraid, and the Marines would go up, or not the Marines, I'm mixing ranks and branches in the military, whatever. The soldier would go to the roof.
Family that they were Marines. That the Green Berets were Marines. I said, don't tell the Army family that the Green Berets.
Right. No, I know. That's like calling a Marine a soldier. It's like a bad idea. Okay. So they go to the rooftop and they stand there to defend, and they go up every day. And for the first, say, week or two, they're by themselves. They see each other on their rooftops, like us coaches up there, but no one will go join them because they're afraid. That's where we are right now. So if you show up for a Zoom and nobody hops on to work out with you, still do your workout and pray for every single person that day that's struggling. You know what I mean? It's not your failure. It's not because you're not enough. That's what the enemy is going to tell you. You're literally standing on the rooftop. I loved it. Elizabeth posted that I should have done it the day before. She took a picture of herself and was like, someone needs to join me tomorrow. Like, she shared that she showed up, she worked out anyway. That's being on the rooftop. You know what I'm saying? It's not only showing the team call photo when there's 30 people. It's showing the team call photo when there's 2. Because that's what matters. And we have to be that. So checking on our challengers, asking for feedback, seeing what they need. Like Sarah said, giving a little more free throw away than usual. Like, because it's your consistency in showing up that's going to teach them and help them climb out of whatever they're struggling with. They're watching. So many challengers right now are watching. They're just same as us, trying to figure out how to navigate. So, you know, make sure you're being active in your journey and being that example. Number 2 is having a plan for your social media right now and being really intentional with it. So I would recommend that you plan out when you're going to post every day, once a day, and that you plan maybe the things you want to post. Like for me right now, I'm posting every morning after my prayer time. If I post something else that day, that's great. But it's really just those reflections. You know, plan if you want to go live, plan what you want to teach, but planning intentionally and choosing when you're going to be on. And if you do stories, make them a part. Like what I like about stories is you can upload them and you don't have to scroll the news feed. You can just do them. So make a pattern of sharing like 3 or 4 things daily on stories that you think will show people the things that they need to make sure they're doing, whether it's their workout, their prayer time, some time with their family, a recipe that you cooked, a screenshot from your book. But treat it as if like you are a publication for a magazine that is supposed to shine light in a time where everything else is negative. We get to be the good news station. You know, I was thinking about that the other day, and I think that you have to be really intentional with it. You know what I mean? But it's, you know, what are the things that would help your person? What are the things that are driving you crazy right now? How are you going to problem solve them? Then teach it. You know, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Being a hope giver does not mean you don't have a day you're not mad. Doesn't mean you don't have a day that you lose your marbles because you and your husband are trying to figure out how to coexist 24 hours a day, which is hilarious because I love when Courtney's home, but we're like, we got to figure something out. You know what I mean? Because there's just a new dynamic, or I got to teach my preschooler stuff and all these things. And I got overwhelmed and scared the other day. And you don't think you have to be perfect. And it's not like you're not allowed to feel those things or share that you're feeling them. But how can you turn a lesson out of it? You know, give an empowering meaning to what you're going through. Plan your focus right now for the value you're giving. Plan one thing that gives you joy to offer others. Is it to host a virtual PE? That you open a small group and every day you use these free workouts that were just released in a group, and you offer 2 Zoom times and you hop on and you work out with your kids and you invite people to do it with you. Simple. And maybe you put a meal plan together of things, or grab something off Beachbody On Demand for families. Maybe it's a free group focused on mindset or a free group focused on prayer. It doesn't matter. You decide. But how can you offer value right now? Pick something simple. Something that I told our team, I challenged them to do, and I can share this with you, Steph, is called the 50 Conversations of Hope. I challenged everyone to reach out by the end of March to 50 people just to check on them, just to see how they're doing. There was a message I've been sending. I got like a script from Kayla Ibanez and I edited it, but it basically asked, how are you handling these uncertain times? Is there anything I can do to serve you right now in your journey or provide any sort of relief in this time that's pretty stressful? And that doesn't mean I'm inviting them to a group. It could be, and I'm praying for them. It just opens up dialogue. And I've sent it to 5 people a day so far, like the last few days. And it's been great because some people are just sharing how they're doing. It's just checking on people. Yeah, collecting emails if you want to start a newsletter. Now is the time to, if you have extra time, don't use it on Facebook. Use it to create value, like a newsletter. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I got all this time. Courtney's home. I can work on my business more. Yes, but that most of that time I should spend the same amount connecting and the extra time creating. Make a goal. It's okay to set a goal. Like if you want to set a goal of, I want to help 5 women in my challenge group in April, but maybe reduce don't say I want to sell 5 challenge packs. It's I want to help 5 women. So if that's a quarterly bod, if it's to be mindset, which is like Sarah said, nothing's changed. You still can offer the challenge pack because it's a really good deal and value. But also, in addition to that, what value can you bring to your challenge groups that people need now? This is a time to we don't have to overcomplicate our challenge groups, but just add the gifts we have in a more intentional way. It's not like changing what we've always done. And if anything, I think it's refocusing us on what really matters. Like something that Brad said to me today on the phone, which was interesting, but good and true, is he's like, it's really funny when people are afraid of their lives, they're not so scared about inviting somebody anymore. The same fear of inviting somebody to be a part of a group reduces when you see there's people who are struggling of whether or not they're going to put food on the table. So if that is offering people to look at the job opportunity, use the workshop group and tag people in the videos that are already there. We're not running a workshop right now, but if you're talking to someone and they're struggling, you could say, I know you're overwhelmed and I don't want to try to imagine that I can fix your problems overnight. But I do know that through this opportunity, I've been able to bring in an extra couple $100 a month. And if that would help you right now, would you be open to talking about it? Have you ever thought about doing something from home right now while you're waiting for your restaurant to open back up? I don't think anyone would be offended by that. There's a right way and a wrong way, and you know the right way, so trust your gut. But I think you need to have a plan for now. And the last thing that I was going to share, don't fall into judgment. Don't judge that. There's a couple different kinds of judgments that are going on. There's judgment that you shouldn't do these things in your business, but you know what? People have to work. And if this business can help your family right now, especially if you have a spouse that's home and there's uncertainty with their job, or maybe this business provides some positivity for you to save up something for your family to do when this pandemic is over. I'm dreaming of a beach house one day. You know what I'm saying? And how you share your story of how you're working to help people, but you're also excited about one day when this is done, because you know it will be over one day, being able to be with your family and walk down the beach holding hands and not worrying so much about sharks in the water anymore because you just survived the coronavirus pandemic and perspective is shifted. Give yourself a goal that gets you excited. If it's going to Disney World, make it Disney World. If it's buying a car, if it's date nights again, if it's whatever it could be, if it's blessing people who can't work by philanthropy, if it's finding ways to help, you decide, but make a goal right now that excites you and don't prejudge it as wrong. If it's on your heart, it's not wrong. It's not wrong, and if you have a negative thought, this was something that Brad told me to do today. I'm going to share with you. And he said to offer this as a prayer, to say out loud, I forgive this thought and I'm going to choose again. I forgive this thought and I'm going to choose again. So when you say, I shouldn't work today because everything's so horribly negative, I forgive this thought and I'm going to choose again. What I'm going to choose is to spend 20 minutes adding value and knowing that God can take my loaves and multiply them. The last thing I would say is some personal development that's really been helping me. Bob Heilig is offering free training every day at noon on his channel. And he's offering webinars right now to specifically focus on how to be a leader in this time. So many personal development gurus and leaders like Brendon Burchard, Bob Heilig, Brad Bizjack, Michael Hyatt, they're offering a lot of free training right now because they don't want us to screw this up. You know what I'm saying? Bob Heilig loves network marketing and Brad Bizjack loves going against the grain and shining a light, and Brendon Burchard does too. And I know there are others, but those are the ones I listen to. Josh Coates is even doing stuff. They want us to be the service light, the hope. even Carl Deichler right now, the fact that they're releasing stuff for free on Vimeo, so they don't even get to track that, y'all. Like they're just trying to help. And so if you're uncertain, you need someone like Brad or Bob or Brendan, all the B's, in your head. Because last night's webinar I went to for Bob Heilig, and it was on limiting beliefs, and it was something that I had learned through Appreciation Academy, and I needed to hear it again because I broke through something big last night that was holding me back from loving my family the way I need to right now. If you're locked up in your business, I'm guessing you're also a little locked up in your life. And so I believe this business is a vehicle that helps with that because we're so focused on growth with one another. So schedule a time every day to grow with that. Like whether, you know, make it like your school time, like for yourself. Your kids are in school and you're going to listen to Bob Heilig because he's so focused. If anyone's ever listened to his podcast titled A Return to Love, some of us, Elizabeth was with me, we went to Dallas a few years ago. I felt like that was like yesterday, but it was a few years ago, and we got to hear him speak when he gave that same talk at that conference, and we were like all deeply touched by it. You won't judge yourself harshly if you have someone that you can trust speaking the truth so that you can teach yourself like to capture the negative thoughts. I'm still going to do this reset, whether I'm nuts crazy or not, because it's something I can do right now and I can offer as a fast. Offer your workouts daily for people and ask them what intentions, if you're a person of prayer, you can offer them for. Like, more than ever, like that morning time, I am not a morning person, and I have successfully gotten up at 5:45 every day this week to pray and work out. Because if I don't know what I'll be like during the day with my kids. And I might have to do that for 3-4 weeks before someone else wants to get on that rooftop with me. But sharing, it's not bragging. It's showing people the world is panicking and I am choosing hope. And that was the last thing I wrote. Like, don't fall into judgment, rise up in hope. That's, your vision matters. There are people that need that. And also, don't put pressure on yourself that you have to be perfect like Mary Poppins and you can't have a bad day or fall into a pan of brownies, or like you can't, this does not mean we have this pressure of like, that's Jesus's job to be perfect, not ours. You know what I'm saying? And so it's okay to, like, if you have a day that you're like, I don't know how to post something on social media today positive because I'm struggling, post something funny. Ask people to share their wins and be brave enough to do it even on days that because of this stupid algorithm, nobody sees your stuff and you're going to do it anyway because you don't care. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want to do protect your time. Do make sure you're doing things that fill you. Something that you might want to do after this call too is make a list of the things that help you feel creative and uplifted that you can do from home. And make sure you're scheduling more time for those, because then when you do sit down to work your business, you're going to be really intentional and good with your time because you're full. I had to do this whole analysis activity with the things that fill me up, and I'll share this and then we can pray and get off. But like for me, the stuff that awakens my creativity is quality conversations, journaling, connection, prayer time, keeping my house clean, quality time with my kids, quality time with my husband. Can you tell my love language is quality time? Health and fitness, eating healthy, and having time to be creative. And when I was ranking how I was doing, because of this whole isolation, I've been spending very little quality time with my kids, very little quality time with my husband. I've had some Zoom stuff, but we haven't nearly had as much like interaction and conversation. I haven't seen a friend face to face in a while, you know, and looking at that, no wonder my business was suffering a little bit this week because I'm dried up. So what are those things? Because when you make your list of 10, you can start teaching on social media. What are the 10 things that you can make sure you're doing to fill your cup during this season and teach it? You know what I mean? So like, there are a lot of gifts in this season. It will pass. It doesn't mean it's not going to be hard, but like focusing and speculating and reading 8 million articles is not going to bring us peace. And I don't mean you have to bury your head in the sand either, although I kind of want to be an ostrich right now. But be intentional with your business as like an opportunity to really serve. And make sure that in the midst of this, you're doubly filling your cup more than ever. And don't feel embarrassed if you protect your time. If you need to move your group over to the app and not be on social media, do that. Like, you get to be in charge of that. You know what I mean? But do stay connected to the team. And I hate that, you know, because what we are doing is different. And you know, it's weird because it's a really uncertain time, but at the same time, I feel like this is what we've been training for a long time. Like, you know, and so even all the prayers of God growing our team and letting us be a light and letting us be an anomaly and letting us stand up, I'm like, well, Lord, if this was your plan, this was not the way I was thinking. But he just calls us to be faithful, like the mug, to the present moment. Like, I needed another coffee mug. I have like 8,000. Something new. So, does anyone have any other questions before we hop off? Or we definitely need to pray. Who would like to pray? I mean, I already prayed today. I don't need to pray again. Just kidding. And my lip finally stops like pouring blood. Sorry about that. That was so awkward. I would have died like 3 years ago if that happened. There's not a quota. I was like, for what? All right. I will pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for our community, our teams, the vision that you placed on our heart. Lord, this is a challenging time in our world, but you are bigger. You are bigger than this virus. You are bigger than our financial situations. You are greater than any crisis, Lord. Give us the grace to trust you. Give us the grace to say when we're scared, Jesus, I trust you, and to really believe that you are in control and that you want good things for us, Lord. And Lord, I pray protection on our minds from the fear that the media feeds. And I pray for inspiration from the Holy Spirit to speak light, life, and truth and hope daily. And then to have peace to just let go of the noise of the world and be present in our homes. We pray for Megan and her baby who's coming any minute. We pray for Sarah and her new little bundle, and for all the mamas on our team with all the kids that are home. We pray for your will to be done, that you would take what we have each day and multiply it to be enough. Lord, help us to serve those who need this solution, whether it's to help them through the business because they're in need of the financial opportunity and they have gifts that they can steward, Lord, to bring more hope, more freedom, more purpose, more health and wellness, and more just overall growth and healing into their lives and beyond. We pray for women and men who would benefit from our challenge groups. Let us not be afraid to reach out and offer help in this time. Lord, let us be the helpers. Show us how to be the helpers, and show us how to inspire others to be helpers too. I pray, God, that you would just stir up in us a confidence in you. I pray for healing. I pray for an end to this pandemic. I pray for your divine healing. I pray for all of the lessons that come from this experience, Lord, that they unify our world. I pray for protection on our families and for all of those who are really struggling today, Lord, that if there's anyone that we can reach out to today to offer hope, you would place their names on our hearts today. We give you all the glory as we pray in your most holy name. Amen. Thank you, guys. It's good being with everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, y'all.